Hi, I'm Karon MacLean, the instructor of our Fundamentals graduate course in Human-Centered Design. CPSC544 will be offered in Term 1 on Mondays and Wednesdays, plus a lab for working on the team project on Thursdays. This course is the first core component of the Designing for People grad training program, but open to any interested graduate student across the university with minimal prerequisites. The extra resources from the Create that supports it means that we have good TA support and a great classroom and lab space. The kinds of constraints and concerns that we need to satisfy in human-facing design might include the obvious ones: shape and form, cost and efficiency, reliability and effectiveness, understandability, usability. They also include the pleasures of the appearance, pride of ownership, and joy of actual use. We're increasingly realizing how important larger societal issues are also important in design and how these can lead to complexity and conflict. Human-centered design is a process going after these requirements, but making sure we understand and are solving the right problem within a larger social context. Those of us in a tech discipline may be more familiar with technology-centered design, also an entirely valid enterprise, but where the emphasis is on the novelty, done because it's possible or interesting or will sell a product, less about the need it fills. In this article, Professor Haggard of Brock University shares how the first released Canadian government-funded COVID app checks the boxes regarding user privacy, but missed the mark in other crucial ways. Haggard said, rather than targeting the groups most vulnerable to COVID transmission, it focuses on those least likely to spread the disease, namely higher-income Canadians who can afford expensive smartphones and data plans. Meanwhile, it's low-income communities that are most at risk of COVID-19 transmission. Further, the app was developed in the absence of a regulatory framework to prevent businesses from misusing information gathered by such apps. This is an example of how there are many factors to consider in the design process: users, ethics, access to technology, policy to implement and regulate it. When we focus on the bells and whistles at the expense of these other considerations, we miss designing things that really contribute to people's life, work, and society at large and don't do harm. In this course, we learn by doing and by looking to best practices in research and design methods. The course centers around a group project that allows students to develop a prototype through multiple design states. First, we have to understand who is being designed for, and only then start laying out an approach to solving a real problem. We use different methods, including observation, interviews, surveys, to generate project ideas and gather information about the intended audience. This course is a lot of things, and I'll just highlight two of them. First, it's very interdisciplinary. And secondly, people coming from a technology discipline may find the new skills surprisingly demanding, a different way of thinking about your work. I'll show you some highlights from last year's projects to give you an idea. We reach a realistic interactive mock-up stage in our prototyping, not worrying about underlying function, so we can focus on the user experience and how it meets their needs. These mock-ups then become a spec for how the underlying application should be architected. This team went after the challenge of food security by university students. It's hard to not only find expensive food, but the kind of food that works for you. But part of the problem was devising a practical way to incent the different stakeholders to generate the information that's needed to populate a food search application. Last year, a lot of students started getting especially concerned about finances. Broke No More was one of two teams that tackled financial management by students. This team focused on a learning aspect, wanting to fill the gap that many students don't know much about finances. Their user research led them to focus on an AI advisor to teach them. This is one of the more unusual projects we've seen. Silo Busters wanted to help solve the problem of student siloing, where you only ever talk to students who do the same thing you do, even when you know there's lots of diversity across campus. They worked especially hard on the conceptual model to gamify the interaction, using a card game as a metaphor for mixing things up and finding an interesting match, maybe to go out for lunch or a group meetup. Very quickly, here's a list of the topics we cover in CPSC 544 and the structure of the course, which mixes content with a hands-on project. Finally, if you're intrigued by the Designing for People program, you can learn more about it at dfp.ubc.ca. And I hope to see a few of you in class on Wednesday, the first day of classes.